business owner, and I am a proud father and grandfather, and I'm running to make this state better so they can stay here and live here.
And I'm Ben Sheridan. I'm an attorney who lives in St. Albans, West Virginia. And I just want to say I'm very impressed with this group of folks who are running for the first district. I'm running for mostly the same reasons everybody else is running. I think that this current legislature has done a lot of things that are not particularly positive for consumers and individuals in the state of West Virginia. And also I want to see West Virginia move forward, especially on technology and the internet.
Oh, and I should note that this district has 4 seats, right? Of which
That's correct.
Andrew is the running Democrat. Right? Okay, so you want to start your presentation?
Well, as we can talk about broadband, since hopefully people will be able to watch this.
That actually is a good subject.
There was a bill this session. Senator Chris Walters proposed a public system to help with broadband. It was a little strange coming from the Republican side of the aisle, but he had a lot of interesting ways to fund it, and he had a lot of good statistics about how lousy broadband was in the state and how much we needed it. So I'd like to hear from you all whether you support that plan, whether you have another plan, and your thoughts on the way broadband is being handled right now and presented by companies like Frontier. So, Courtney, you start.
Although I'm a pretty partisan Democrat, I must compliment Senator Chris Walters for sponsoring the bill. I did not actually read the content, but the thrust of what he's doing, I think, is really important. If West Virginia is not going to fall further behind the rest of the country, we have to be able to have access to the same things that the rest of the country has access to. So I support the concept. I don't know if I would every specific paragraph I would agree with, but I think he should be complimented for trying to do that.
I've read the bill. Absolutely the right idea. What I add or take anything from it, that's hard to say. But I think that absolutely, expanding rural broadband is important in the infrastructure, which I think is what, that's what we need to do as a state. It's invest in infrastructure, it's an investment in our citizens, it's an investment in the state as a whole, and we really need to do this.
hate to echo the same thing, but I agree. And it puts me in a strange position because Ron Walters and I used to debate on a lot of things when he was in the House and I ran the public defender system. When I was in charge of 26 offices statewide, we actually could not call the Welch office because they didn't have enough trunk lines going into Welch to handle it. Probably no better now. It's kind of a leap to think of a public-owned infrastructure like that, but I think we may have to do it because the telephone companies, and there are several now, counting all the cell phones, are just not going to invest here. We don't show a profit. We're not worth their money to invest here. So if we're going to go forward, we've got to step up. And like Thornton, I'm not sure of the details. I'm not a techie any more than Brad is. But the concept needs to be discussed. We've got to do something to have public investment in our infrastructure. And it was a good start, at least, to raise the issue.
I actually didn't get a chance to vote on it because it did not come to the House side. So I didn't get to add or take away anything from it, but I do commend Senator Walters for doing it. And I don't think it needs to be a discussion. I think that it needs to go further than that. It needs to be a plan and it needs to be set in place. Because when you talk to these companies that have come into our state, like for example, between Clarksburg and Morgantown, most of us have seen the technology park that's set up there. You've got NASA there, you've got a bunch of other companies. Why? Because there's dependable infrastructure, there's more of a profit in it. So we need to do this, and we need to do it now, because that is what businesses are looking for to support their own infrastructure. And so it needs to be done next session, regardless of any gripes from any sectors.
I haven't read the bill. And I think it's very important to read the bills cover to cover before you vote on them. But being a young man, grown up here in southern West Virginia, I understand the value of technology. But West Virginia, you know, being so rugged terrain, there's remote areas, it poses a serious challenge to get broadband in every nook and cranny and hollow in West Virginia. So as the state faces this budget problem, funding for, you know, statewide broadband, or, like I said, I haven't read the bill, but it poses a serious challenge. So, you know, I would be concerned of how we're going to fund it with all the other budget shortfall that we have. You know, I think it's great. And I think it's great with, you know, public schools now are going to get iPads, we're going to paperless. You know, we're making advancements in southern West Virginia in the technology field. You know, so it's going to be a slow process. We can't expect it to be done overnight, especially facing the budget problems that we have in the state.
I agree with definitely the terrain is an issue, but, and also I think it's key to business. If we want to go forward with business in the state, that's probably the key to getting business to come here is broadband.
Nobody's going to move their business to the state of West Virginia unless they have access to viable high-speed broadband internet, especially in the rural counties. And while I think Mr. Walter's heart's in the right place, and I don't know if a publicly funded system is the right option, or if, because tens of millions of dollars have already been dumped into this, it should already actually be there as far as a viable backbone. It's just the last mile into the houses needs to be finished out, theoretically, on Frontier's lines. But I think a partnership or some kind of investment in viable high-speed internet in the rural counties is absolutely crucial, whether it comes from public funds or it comes from federal grants or other programs, and there are a lot of grant programs that have been out there for years. I think this has to be done if West Virginia's going to move forward. And I think we need to look at what happened to the funds that were spent already, and why is this not already in place? There hasn't, and I know the Attorney General's looking at that a little bit, and there's a settlement in Frontier, but I wonder why we don't already have viable high-speed internet in West Virginia.
Sure. I will direct this question at Thornton. So I want Thornton to answer first once he's done in the next hour. After Thornton's done, anybody else can chime in. Thornton, in your introduction, you said you're running because you want to undo the damage done by this recent legislature in the past two sessions. Obviously, the Republican majority, first Republican majority in 80 plus years. And I just want to remind you, before, 2014, West Virginia wasn't sitting on top of the world with, in terms of business investment, with internet access, with great internet access, with the best education system, with entrepreneurship, with jobs. The state's pretty much on the bottom of all these lists, and Republicans will argue it's been through generations of Democratic leadership that just kind of created a bad business climate. So I just want you to explain further about undoing the damage and considering the damage that West Virginia, or the shape that West Virginia was already in.
Well, let me give you some examples, one of which I'm strongly opposed to the so-called right-to-work legislation that was passed, because the federal statute says that if you are a union and you are selected to represent the folks in a collective bargaining unit, even though the people don't want to join the union, you still have to represent them if they have agreements. So my feeling is the way it was, where they would have to pay what's called an agency fee. You don't have to join a union, but if you are represented by a union in the private sector setting, at least this was the law until recently, then the union would represent folks who didn't even like unions if they had grievance against, they want to file grievance. So now, with this new change by the Republican-dominated legislature, the unions are having to represent these folks in a in that type of grievance about getting any type of compensation by the non-union people they're representing. I don't think that's right. I also don't agree with the decision to repeal the prevailing wage statute. Now, that's not to say they couldn't tweak it, but I definitely thought there should be some type of prevailing wage legislation. I think that what's happening, the Republicans are pushing as we Democrats say, it's a race to the bottom. They're trying to get rid of all these types of protections, and they say this is going to make things better. Well, we'll see if they remain in power. Maybe we'll find out. But they're just enough things from raw milk to having people carry guns without permits. I mean, I just think the last 2 years have
been the worst 2 years in my life, and I'm 66, as far as what the legislature has done. So I'll stop there and let other people talk.
I would say being there that it was frustrating. Our people elect us to address the real issues facing West Virginia. And I forget what publication it was, but the last night of the legislative session, I'm leaning back in my chair, and I have my hands over my face. I didn't know anybody was taking a picture. But you know what we were discussing? We were discussing a constitutional convention to add an amendment to balance the federal budget that can't even happen unless 38 states agree to it. And those were the issues that we were talking about. It's not about the damage, it's about why did we not focus on the bills that would help our roads, help create jobs, focus on the drug epidemic, focus on the real issues. Instead, we focus on, like Gordon said, the gun bill, the religious freedom bill, as we've seen the impact across the nation on that. This constitutional convention that can't even happen. There was a legislator stood up and said it was the most important piece of legislation that we were working on the entire session. And that's when I leaned back in my chair, because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But it's the focus on the issues, not the, I should so-called, what people want legislation. That was my frustration, and that's where I'm coming from on that.
Andrew, just to follow up, what is your thought on that? Why does the legislature waste so much time on issues like that? On issues like guns and raw milk and things like that, divisive issues like religious freedom, when there's so many pressing things? Is it because they don't have any ideas? Why does that happen?
I wouldn't say it's because they don't have ideas, it's because they're being told maybe that this is what I want, and it comes from a certain group. And to address your point even further, when's the last time that you've seen West Virginia make the national spotlight on so many issues? The RFRA bill, the gun bill, the raw milk bill. I mean, I think I heard that Donald Trump even said something about the raw milk bill, about one of the legislators getting sick. And so I don't know if it's more about not having ideas. I think they're getting direction, saying, hey, why don't you throw this in while you're in power, or throw this legislation, give it a chance. And I think it's being pushed more by groups than anything. So I don't know if it's the lack of ideas. I don't know if I can agree with you on that, but it might be.
I thought we were going in order, but I'm going to jump in here. The short answer to your question, Rob, I was a legislative staff counsel for 10 years, and I was in the Bel Air district, and also ran a state agency for 20. So I got yelled at by Ocean Prego for half an hour every year, and you know what that is. The short answer is important to somebody. And that's a serious answer as well as a little flip. It's important to somebody. And the problem is, and the problem that we have had that has allowed the Republican takeover, is that the right people are not stepping up. The right people are not interested. The right people are not pushing the right things. The Koch brothers are here, guys. They're here. And I've heard the advertisements, and you have too. Part of the reason the Republicans took over our legislature is funding from outside and issues from outside. I mean, some of these issues are not really West Virginia issues. They resonate here, but they didn't start here. And they're being carefully orchestrated, carefully funded, and there's a lot of money flowing from this to this, none of which is going to rebound to our benefit. Nothing they have done this year, as Andrew says, really helps them. First rule of holes is when you're in one, you ought to quit digging. We're digging. We're digging with a really rapid backhoe, and it's going to make it much, much worse. There is no reason we should have wasted all the time we wasted on the kind of things Andrew mentioned. It was a complete waste of time. When we have serious issues, we need to spend a lot of time doing it. You can track any important thing. It usually takes 3 years to get through legislation. any big important thing. There are exceptions to it. It's a long, steady, slow process. Legislature is the funnel that drips down this way. It's intended, as Richard Neal used to say, to keep things from happening. It does that very effectively. But if you're going to get something done, you're going to get something that's progressive, you're going to get something that's good, you've got to spend a lot of time and effort on it. I haven't seen that in the last 2 years. Thornton's absolutely correct. And it's a tragedy. People in West Virginia are being lied to. And unfortunately, because they don't read the Charleston Gazette and the Daily Mail, they may not know enough about it. I'm serious about it. You all, I said to Brad on the way, you all probably the last bastion of real investigative reporting and kind of reporting that should happen. You're not going to hear it on the radio. You're not going to hear it on the TV. They don't have time. People are not informed. Fox News drives the agenda. Koch brothers drives the agenda. And that's the short answer. I'll keep preaching.
Yeah, so I think that it's kind of a common theme, but priorities, I think that our priorities are a little bit different. I think things that the state government in West Virginia as a state traditionally does very well, education, infrastructure, fighting the drug epidemic. These are real priorities that we can affect on the state level, and we're so far from that at this point. And it really is kind of, buzzword bills that we talked about, you mentioned, that took all the air out of the session. So I think that, and that's probably one of the things as opposed to some
Anybody else?
My opinion, your question, Mr. Berger, is right about why the power of the House right now at the state House are doing what they're doing is because of the groups that got them elected. You have to cater to the people, the money that got you elected. I mean, that's just the game of politics. So that is a good example of you watching the West Virginia channel. How you kind of see what I think it's great that the populace can watch. You can see what they're saying. Does it add up? Or does it show that they are catering to not what is best for our community, but for a group, a certain group that is funding multiple groups? I agree. I think we can consider civil
I'm passionate about this state, and I also think that the legislature these last 2 years have wasted a lot of time on senseless issues, and I think that the citizens of West Virginia deserve better.
I just want to echo the sentiment that a lot of folks on this panel expressed today, and especially Mr. Cooper down at the end there said about right to work and prevailing wage. But getting back to the original question, what moves this state forward, I think, is we've got to kind of focus on policies that will help build West Virginia going into the future. We have to encourage people to stay here and start businesses here, and we have to try to find ways to reduce the enormous student loan balances on our kids coming out of college, for example, so that they can start businesses here under the weight of an enormous amount of student loans. Have to find ways to use the tax structure to encourage people to start businesses, small businesses in the state, because that's really the future in West Virginia, is getting people to stay, start a business, employ other West Virginians, and move the state forward.
Kelly, can I do one quick follow-up? The most effective argument I heard on the Republican side is after 83 years of rule, where are you? Let me address that. It had nothing to do with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party that Union Carbide went under. That was what called. It had nothing to do with anybody here or anything anybody here did. The coal industry went there. Mechanization has got to happen. It's going to happen in any industry. It's technology. That took care of that. My home was in the Upper Pinole Valley region. Union Carbide and Alloy went under because the steel industry was taken by the Japanese and the Germans, and the metals plant up there fed right into the steel industry. No political act from anybody here could have fixed that. But Ben's exactly on the right track, and other people on this panel. We've got to start investing for the future. We've got to start doing things differently and putting some money out. And this is a hard thing to do when you don't have any money. We wouldn't have a capital, the Capitol building, we have backup. If people in the Great Depression had said, we can't afford to build this, and they probably would have been right had they said that at that time. You've got to invest when you're down. And government has got to do the investment. If I were a businessman trying to make money here, I'd have to work later to do it. I admire the people who are trying to do it. Small business is still out there hitting singles for all of it. It's very difficult in this environment. Broadband is one of the biggest issues. You can't have a modern business without broadband, and we don't have it. And I agree with Ben. I don't understand why not, because we put a lot of money into it in some places. It's a mystery to me why it hasn't happened. But when you look at why we are where we are, it's not government. It's big forces outside of the state and lack of really vigorous, and I'm not blaming anybody, private sector that could recreate.
And that raises, actually, and you brought it up and it reminded me of, and you did too. And I'll just give a quick story about, I graduated, went to high school here, and graduated from college from Marshall, and then immediately went to Texas, in the Houston area. And all these people my age, here I had some student loan debt, and I had family already, so raising kids. And all these people my age, here I was with a college degree, okay, I should be making good money. All these people my age hadn't gone to college, had created their own businesses. And, they're 22, 23 years old there. Like, how did these people get, create their own businesses? Like, what, I was just really impressed. 4 years later, I wound up moving back to West Virginia. And these people my age that I'd known before, like, oh, I can't get a job, so-and-so's not hiring, plants are down. But, there was no spirit, there was no spirit of entrepreneurship. Why don't we have a spirit of entrepreneurship and is that the job of the legislature? What can we do to create a spirit of entrepreneurship? Instead of talking about big companies coming in and making jobs, why aren't we talking about making jobs from within?
You're looking at me, so I've got to answer.
Sure.
I don't want to step on anybody. Partly it's Appalachian culture. We're fatalists. We don't believe it's going to get better. We have to hunker down and take it. It's not true. We've got people here just as bright as any place else. I can name you a raft of people I've been growing up and going other places and doing very well. The answer is type of investment. The Future Fund that Jeff Kessler came up with a long time ago was a good start. I would advocate for a West Virginia Institute for the future, bring in all of higher ed. Presidents of Marshall and WU get it, and I'm sure the presidents of the other colleges out there get it. We need to focus our higher ed instead of cutting, because we've been cutting for years. I don't know how they survive. The last figure I saw, the higher ed was supported for the total expenditures by about 12-15%. I mean, we're not funding education anymore at that level. But focus all of it, and I'm not sure how to do it. This is a concept. In an institute for the future, and say to all the higher ed people, all the presidents, and all these significant, really significant brains we've got sitting around. We need for you to come up with ideas and focus it for the legislature, for the government, for private businesses, a way to go forward. We need to have that kind of investment. The kinds of things that are Bridgeport and on up would not have happened with that governmental investment. Robert Z. Byrd did. Now, was it then continuing to roll on its own? Yes, but you've got to have the seed, and the seed really is higher education. I don't know any other way to do that. Entrepreneurship can be taught. Will it all be successful? I don't know, probably not. But that's why they call it a venture fund. 9 times out of 10 you're going to go under. But you got to keep seeding. And that's what you see in California and Texas and other places. But they don't quit, they just do something else. We get so hopeless down in our little cultural malaise. We don't know what to do. I think our higher ed institutions could come in and at least start laying ground. This is a 10 or 20 year, maybe even longer cycle. This is not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen in the next legislature. It doesn't matter who's the governor, who's the legislature. This is long term. But we must begin. We're doing absolutely nothing. Other places. Research Triangle, everybody knows. I went to UNC Chapel Hill in 1967. I came home. I probably should not have done that for my own purposes. But they were starting to lay the ground. You could see it happen. I wasn't a dumb kid at 18. I didn't know it was happening, but in retrospect, I could see it happen. It didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen with just one person. It happened with business, with government, with higher ed, everybody working together. And now look what we've got. I mean, we could do something simple. We don't have a Duke, NC State, Chapel Hill, all within 10, 15 miles. But we've got pretty good institutions, Division I, doctoral granting institutions. We could do better.
Now, let's face facts. We got about the pretty near the lowest per capita income in the country. We have an aging population, an undereducated population. We're rural. We have mountains separating us. We don't, I mean, this is the kind of the dilemma we're in. We're an impoverished state and we have the greatest needs, but we can't come up with the money to address those needs. I mean, it'd be great if, rich state, you don't have as many needs in terms of, taking care of minimal things such as West Virginia does, and you have the money to do it. It's not because of the Republicans, it's not because of the Democrats, it's just a historical thing, and the way our topography is. Each party claims we're going to fix it. I don't think it's going to be fixed easily. But I do think, Chris Waters was one, that's part, we have to do certain things to keep us from falling further behind. But I just think it's going to be really, really difficult to see the success, in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years. We're just completely different. When I was, back in 1977, when I got out of law school, I got a job with the Department of Highways. I was getting paid $13,000 a year. A kid right out of high school in Hancock County, going to steel mill, would be making $19,000 a year. And so much of our economy was based on good union paying, high compensation jobs. But what's happened, so many people, I'm 66, so many people that were doing well 40 years ago, now they're very, very upset that their standard of living has dropped. But I don't think any party or any candidate is going to solve the thing overnight. We just have to analyze what can we do. One thing I want is a level playing field. I don't think the state should be picking winners and losers.
Anybody else on entrepreneurship growth?
I think it's a different time now. My generation, I'm 35 years old, so, we're kind of something they mentioned in Marshall, one of my teachers, called us the basement generation. As to, my parents, when they graduated high school, they came from big families, of course, and were expected to get out and get their own place to live and start a family. So my generation, the houses are already paid for. When kids get out of college, they kind of go back home, they go to the basement. They kind of get complacent and are happy there. It's not that it's such a bad thing, but I think the ambition in the youth is gone. We got a drug problem. A lot of the kids I went to school with are they're on drugs and that's a big problem. Why they're not starting their own business, but anybody with a weed whacker and a lawnmower can start their own business here in Canal Valley. But people just aren't doing that. So you got to think of why. Why aren't small businesses starting in West Virginia? So I think we need to examine our tax policies and examine the tax policies of our bordering states and say, are we doing anything to discourage businesses from opening up in West Virginia instead of going to Ohio or Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Virginia, Maryland?
I think entrepreneurship, I'll jump in a little bit, is a set of skills that can be taught. And I think we can teach it really all the way through, starting from elementary all the way through high school. A lot of states actually have programs working with high schools and small businesses, teaching kids the skills they need to learn how to advertise, to learn how to find customers, to learn how to start a business, to learn how to file the paperwork necessary to the Secretary of State to create an LLC. And then I think we also need to consider focusing on the trades. I mean, there's not a lot of, high school needs to teach respect for the trades and how important they are, and it should be easy to get trade certificates and degrees in the state. It should be free, frankly. I think a competent electrician that shows up on time can make a killing in this state. I really do. And same is true for plumbing or anything else. And so, it's just teaching the kids the skills, both to start a business, teaching them it's out there, teaching them how to find customers, and teaching them that it's important, that it's something you can do, that it's something that's valuable. And I think it can be done. I think we can do it all the way through the system, starting at a very young age. And it wouldn't be all that hard.
Kelly, I think you said it best in your story is that you were young and you left. And when I was campaigning, when I was first reelected, a lot of people told me, bring our youth back to this state, don't let them leave. And I talked to my wife because she's from Pennsylvania, and I met her in law school. And I said, what are some things we could provide to bring our youth back after college or some type of schooling? And we talked, and what I developed, and I introduced 2 pieces of legislation this year. One is, I think some of us know that the student loan interest, you're only allowed a certain amount on your federal income tax. Well, I said, what you can't take off your federal, you can take off your state. That was one thing. The other thing I introduced was the West Virginia First-Time Home Buyers Credit. That was a big hit when the federal government did that. And I said, you know what, if we can put those 2 together, mark that out there, hey, come youth back to the state, you get these 2 incentives right off the bat, then we can spur people to get into entrepreneurship, start a small business here. So while there's many pieces of the puzzle, I try to get the start to do what you said, bring it back. Bring it back.
I think Ben's right. It doesn't have to be this area. I paid my plumber more than I used to pay public defenders by the hour. Do high-level criminal defense, which is sad. That's another problem. But you can start at the lowest level, starting about the 8th grade, at least introducing people to the concept, and then having formalized classes, and having formalized, in Europe you get to 8th grade and you get shunned off. We say we're going to let everybody have a chance, which I greatly prefer, but it's expensive and it's inefficient. We should offer more options at that level. Book-tech schools are wonderful. There's not enough of them, and they're not staffed adequately enough. They're not funded well enough. Community college is the same thing. We do have this technical, since Thornton and I have been alive, some of these other premier people will mention, the kinds of things you need to have done, fixing your car, fixing your plumbing, fixing your electrical, have gotten much more complex. This is not just a semi-skilled enterprise. That's why the unions are important. When the union training programs come into this, instead of bashing the unions, we got to be working with them and encouraging them. These are highly skilled. I wouldn't even call them blue collar. This is a mid-level, somewhere between a high school and a full college degree, which taught me nothing that was useful as a history major from West Virginia Tech. Thank you very much. That's why I got in law school, Kelly. There is this mid-level. We've paid some attention to it. I can't say we've done nothing, but we haven't done enough, and we haven't, especially in the entrepreneurship area, we haven't sent the message to starting 13, 14-year-olds, you can do this, and here's the way it would help. There is no start to finish program anyway.
Okay, so all these things you all described taking money.
Yes.
Gordon points out we're not exactly flush with cash. So I'd like to hear from each of you. I've been asking everybody how you would solve the budget equation. What's the solution? We don't have to go in a row. Anybody want to start?
Yes.
How would balance budget? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I don't want to dominate this, but this really ticks me off.
Okay.
When Roger Smith was the budget director, he and I used to talk, and we decided that he and I were probably one of 10 or 15 people in all state government that actually read everything that was out. And if everybody doesn't read it, every legislator ought to have to pass a test on what the budget office puts out. It's wonderful. Microeconomic, it gets right down to the individual detail. You can fix it. It's not that hard.
Okay.
Cigarette tax, major cigarette tax.
What's
Average cigarette tax is about $1 a system. If you take tobacco-producing states, who obviously have a vested interest, that would be North Carolina, Kentucky, a few of them, it's about $1.70. That's average. I hear all this talk about, we need to be at the average. We need to bring our state up. Okay, let's do it. Let's bring that tax up to the average. We have subsidized poor, addicted people who are sick. I followed out in lung cancer. And I can tell you, it's a horrible thing to watch. I have 2 uncles who died of tobacco-related cancer. I would stand on the street corner and throw rocks to get people to quit using tobacco. This is personal. We need to do something to lessen the usage, which will help our healthcare costs. My God, guys, $1 billion a year in unnecessary healthcare costs, and we've got a budget problem, and we're not doing anything about it. We're going to cut the tobacco cessation program that's already funded to that 10% we're nominating. You get both ends of the bargain. You get long-term health benefits, cessation of usage. You get immediate income, because nobody that's addicted is going to quit anytime soon. Now you're about half to two-thirds of where they are. The rest of it's supposed to be tax back. I know that's controversial. Jay Rockefeller had to do it. It sounds like, as a progressive, liberal, I don't know what I am anymore. These ladies don't mean anything. Person who wants to take up for the little guys in West Virginia, it's hard for me to say that. But no one person pays a lot of food tax. It's a horribly aggressive kind of tax. But it's like a pop tax for government, for those of you of a certain age. You know, some of us remember that. It's a tax that's relatively small for everybody, but it applies to everyone. We can't afford to have one food tax, just like we can't afford to have a ridiculously small tobacco tax. And by the way, I want to stop and say that. Any tobacco, and that includes vapor. Okay. Sorry, guys.
You know, I'm answered a little bit differently because I don't say what I want. That's not how I campaigned last election. So what I've done is I've held town hall meetings throughout my district. So I will tell you what they've all agreed on. The majority of the people that I've talked to. Number one, cigarette tax. And you know, it's kind of funny because you hear 45 cents, you hear $1, and every single group that I've talked to said split the baby. Just do 75 cents and be done with it. Next thing that everybody agreed on, I haven't had any complaints about, is the food tax. The most things that I get said at these town hall meetings are, we should have never taken it off anyway. It's a fair tax. We should have never taken it off. And that's the comments I get from the crowd. And they all said about 3%. The next thing that people said is gas tax. Now there was a caveat to that. The groups that I've talked to said, well, let's do this. How about you say 20 cents a gallon as long as it's below $3? Half of it goes to the budget, half of it goes to a roads fund. I said, okay. Everybody's okay with the $1 on the DMV, but what people are not okay with is the sales tax. They think that's a horrible idea because what people forget sometimes is you're going to get a tax additionally if you're in Charleston because there's already that extra, I think it's 1% that you're going to get. So we can't aim. So that people were adamantly against that. The other things that people were against were revisions in the state income tax, personal income tax. So I'm telling you that because I have been out. You know, it's not my decision. I represent the people, and so I wanted to tell you all that's what they've agreed on, and I invite anybody to call me to give me their ideas. But they also said, while you institute that to fill in the hole this year, be working with groups and agencies to look for unnecessary spending and cuts that can be made. But everybody agreed, nobody wants to see a cut that equals layoffs.
So, cigarette tobacco tax, common theme, $1. I would advocate for $1. Jack touched on $1 billion in tobacco-related health care. $277 million of those dollars are built in Medicaid. And Clay Marsh, who's the vice president of the EU Health Sciences, testified at the House Finance. You know, every pack of cigarettes equals $8 in health care costs. And that's a pretty massive burden to think about, especially if you get by bottled water at a gas station, the row of cigarettes behind you. The telecommunications tax, the government mentioned in the State of the State, never had any traction. I was, I think, one of 10 states without that. 6% sales tax, or 6% tax, that was approximately $60 million in revenue. And I think those are a good start. Another thing, just trying to find a permanent funding source for PIA as well, along with the same budgetary concerns.
Okay. I'm for raising the cigarette tax to $1 a pack. I'm for including spit tobacco and vaping and all the other types of nicotine delivery devices. I'm not in favor of raising the tax on food. I would support, if it complies with the tax limitation amendment 1932, find a way, if we can do it in the Constitution, we have some of the lowest property taxes in the country, and I think they should have put a sunset provision when they passed that thing the same day that FDR beat Herbert Hoover. I mean, we're still stuck in 2016 with the mindset of 1932. I mean, when you pay taxes on your car, you pay taxes on your real estate. It makes no sense to me that the taxes on the car don't go partially towards fixing the roads. So I would be receptive if it is compliant with the state constitution in getting more out of our real estate and personal property taxes, because that is more progressive than food tax, which I campaigned to take all the tax off back in 2006. I will never vote to raise the food tax even 1 cent, because I just think it's regressive. We don't have a lot of choices, though. We don't have a lot of choices, so I'm saying I'm not for food tax.
Can I add one thing? The idea, kind of back to the name said about trying the idea of cutting your way out of prosperity. And we've cut the budget 7.5%, 4%, 20% over the last 2 years. I mean, we're getting to a point where we need revenue generating.
Well, I think, I agree with raising the cigarette tax, but the real problem is lack of revenue coming in from the coal industry. We all know that coal is going out. So I think we need to concentrate on attracting different industries or encouraging industries to blossom where coal is left. So we got people that know how to work with their hands, coal miners. Think about what competitive advantages we have. Well, we got lots of hardwoods. We can manage forestry can step in a little bit. Manufacturing wood products. I'm a carpenter. I go to Lowe's. It's made in China, particle wood. In West Virginia, you've got hardwood forests, galore. If we manage our forests properly and manufacture wood products, there's a small industry that can take the place. This is, instead of focusing on taxing, let's replace the industry with multiple industries. Let's work together and say, all right, we got forestry, there's one. What other industries can we apply? Well, tech, we got to be tech. We got to focus on tech industry. But I think the key is replacing coal. The money that we're not getting from that, we can tax, and that's a short-term solution. But the real solution has got to be attracting industries and looking at our advantages, our location. If you look at the map of the United States, why are we not a distribution hub? Why is there a warehousing tax for businesses like Amazon that can't store their products here? So they're not going to bring their warehouse here. We're taxing when our surrounding states are not doing that. What industries can we attract, and what industries can blossom out of what's already here? It's going to take multiple industries to replace this giant non-renewable resource industry that we know we ramp up production. Yeah, that's a short-term solution, but eventually we're going to have to address the big problem. If not, we're just going to see more and more. And the more you tax, it helps in the short run, but the economy will suffer as a whole as the taxes keep going up to solve the revenue problem.
I'm going to disagree with everybody. I don't think we need any more taxes. Smoking, cigarette tax is mostly the poor smoke. It's an addiction. Just overraise taxes on them. They're not going to quit. They're going to pay more for it and spend the money there than where they would spend it somewhere else. And it's just like your own income. Things are tight. Make cuts places. And I think we can cut in the budget, state budget. One thing they can look at is we have all these universities have their own bureaucracy. The state can have one bureaucracy that covers all the universities. And that, these salaries, these high-paying salaries that the state's paying out to all these universities. And it's like, Wonder County, Pinal County schools, for example, you got Board of Education, they oversee all the schools. And that's one place we could look at saving money. But I'm not an advocate for any raising of taxes on people listening.
I think there are some simple tax increases like the cigarette tax that would benefit the short run. But I agree also with the sentiment that long-term fix, we're going to be in budget crisis after budget crisis, so we find some way to get industry to come here and for folks to create jobs, to live here. And the businesses look for places where they have access to internet infrastructure, where the roads are in good shape, where the bridges are in good shape, and where there are public schools available for their children. If I'm a manager of a big corporation, I don't want my kids to places where I feel like they're not going to get a decent education. These are the investments, the long-term investments that will increase overall our long-term tax revenue and actually get us back on more solid footing as we do continue to lose money from extraction. And extraction taxes may come back one day. I hope they do, but the reality is that we have to be thinking about how to rebuild the infrastructure in this state that encourages folks to stay here, create jobs here, and move here.
I want to add that too. West Virginia's our bond rating is exceptional. It's double A. One thing they can look at is selling bonds right now. Why we have such a good rating? Raise some money and stick it into the state and make some improvements here to attract tourism and more businesses. And that'll put people to work here. They'll spend their money here, pay income tax here.
Also, another thing I didn't mention was, I think West Virginia, especially this area, could be a retirement community with a low cost of living and people on Social Security. If you look at the big cities around us, the cost of living is outrageous. Where people were aware that they could come to this wonderful city in Charleston, West Virginia, and live, not like a king, but live very, very comfortably off of their fixed income. I think if we reach out to people that want to escape the high cost of living in the big cities and all the things that come with living in the big cities on the East Coast, Charleston, West Virginia is very unique. Everyone that I know that comes here loves the place. And I think if we get that out there to the baby booming generation who is retiring, and I think that could also help the economy a little bit, the state economy. So that's an idea.
Tim's absolutely right. The development office is doing a lot of that. I would add to your funds, not cut it. And it's not as well known as I think they should make it. But the total foreign, by that I mean offshore, other countries, investment in the state has created jobs that were in excess of the number of jobs in the coal industry before the recent downturn. And that's not a story that's been told much. Now,
Say that again?
The total number of jobs created through foreign investment is now greater than the total jobs in the coal, direct jobs, as Joe Rand would be quick to say. It's not the spin-off and the multiplier effect. They've done a lot of good things. And the problem is, it's not a big Toyota. It's not a big home. It's little singles, and it's scattered all over the state. But that's our only real hope. I mean, the cracker plant is the only big thing I can think of we got yet. And it's not looking good. We got to start hitting savings. We got to start here. And they're doing something, but they need more funding. They need more help to do it. International development is a big thing.
Okay, well, I'll just ask you briefly. You don't have to comment on this if you don't want to. Would anybody here be interested in running that religious freedom bill again? You guys like, any of you all like that? I would be surprised. Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All wrong? Okay.
No, ma'am.
I tried to kill it.
Right.
During the legislative session, I spoke very adamantly about how,
Pushed in a lot of it.
well, I just, we already seen the effects of it in other states, and I said, guys, we don't need to be treading down this territory, it's just wrong, and I tried to kill it in committee and on the floor. But we're now seeing the ramifications in North Carolina majorly. And then the father of Bruce Springsteen. The boss, I mean, when I say the father.
You said the father.
The boss.
The boss.
See what he said.
Sorry. The boss.
And I make this observation. One thing that really upsets me that you're going to use religion as a basis for discriminating against folks, say, based on their sexual orientation. Go back and read the decision back in 1959 by the judge who sentenced a white and black couple for a felony. He said, well, it was God put, the Malays actually brought it, but he explained it was God's design that different races be on different continents, and interracial marriage was a violation of his design. And that, up through a long and contorted system of litigation, if my memory serves me correctly, the decision came out on 1967, June 12th, the Loving case, okay? And that's the one that struck down all the state's laws prohibiting racial intermarriage, including West Virginia. I mean, I remember before that I was asking my minister, I thought it was ridiculous, but that was the law in this state and the entire old Confederacy and a few other states. But one of the justifications when they sentenced that couple for felony was that was God's position, that whites and blacks should not be getting married together. Now, so if you're going to start saying that we're going to create exceptions for people's religion as a basis for them being able to discriminate, go back to that. Do you really? That should never be a basis for somebody saying you can't, and I'm not going to make you a wedding cake because I think it's sinful what you're doing. I mean, that's what really upsets me. Because I used to work for the State Human Rights Commission back in 1974 to 75, and the idea that we pass a law like that would basically, we don't have a state law, protecting people from discrimination based on their sexual orientation or perceived sexual orientation. But to actually pass a law which pushes things back in a few places like Charleston where they pass an ordinance, that's just outrageous. And thank goodness that Andrew and the others did, speak against that. But I'm just saying, as if we need anything else to be a black mark on West Virginia, pass that and then you'll give more and more out-of-state companies a reason not to come here. It was just, this idea we're a bunch of racist, xenophobic, backward people. That just buttresses that type of argument against people in the state. And many of us are not that way.
I want to say something, because I think credit needs to be given where it's due. Kelly brought up something earlier about, 83 years. It prompted some, Republican, Democrat comments. And I just wanted to say that, the Ripper bill, that was one of those issues I was telling you about that we're not addressing the issues that are facing the real issues that are facing West Virginia. But I also have to commend those Republicans that came over and voted against legislation like that. And so I never throw things. You can always see I run a positive campaign. But I do want to say on the record, I commend those Republicans that came over. I think that really shows, that we weren't running bills that are facing real issues. But we had Republicans standing up against their majority and against their leader and voting against that. Some of those were in my district. Some of those Republican candidates were my candidates. They were elected officials then, or candidates now. But I do think that needs to be said, that they stepped up and voted against legislation like that.
I've been here a while, but before we leave, I would like to hear each of you share your thoughts on education, such as the legislature's role in education. Maybe you want to share your thoughts on whether the state should stick with Common Core law and standards. Don't take a long time. Kept you here a long time, but I'm interested in what you'd like to say. Who would like to go first? I haven't heard from you.
I can talk all day. I'll let somebody else.
Let's start on this end, Mr. Chair.
Sure, no problem. And I do think we need some kind of standards on education. I don't think there's any problem with that. And I think the state standards that they propose, as well as the Common Core standards, are okay. They're good. I think some of the concerns, and I know a lot of teachers have it, is that standardized testing is not necessarily the greatest thing on the planet, and it's not designed to assess exactly what's going on with the student, but more designed to assess how people prepare for the test. And I get that, and that is a valid concern. But I think in order for West Virginia to be competitive and for our students to be competitive in the college market, there has to be some sort of standard for kids to meet before they go out and apply for college and try to compete in the marketplace.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think we need a standard, because the children in West Virginia deserve the same education as everyone else in the nation. A bigger states like New York and California, we should be left behind, and that should be a standard that we should be up with. So I believe most of the teachers are supportive of it. I believe that's a good thing.
We got kids in school. When I went to Kanawha County schools, we had standardized testing. I got a great education. But if West Virginia bases its education on what the entire country is doing, we will lose the skills that make in our competitive advantage areas. See, John Adams and other schools, but we had shop class. Anymore, there's no shop class. Now, how is that in Kanawha County, in Charleston, West Virginia, that junior high school kids aren't being taught, woodworking when that happens to be part of our heritage? And they're focusing on, math and science is very important, but I think it should be left to the local people to decide. Now, yeah, we should be tested, like I was when I was in school, grade school. Yeah, we took standardized tests and how you stack up to the rest of the nation. It gives it the information of where you might be lacking, but you shouldn't be forced by the federal government to do things their way. This is our children is a local issue. So, I don't know, that's tough, man. Any bills that come through the House like that, you get better read carefully.
I don't think it's tough. I think it's very clear. And you've got three concepts that are convoluted, that are just absolutely driving me crazy. I'm a sixth-generation teacher, thank you very much. My mother was, for 39 years, a guidance counselor at Gulf Breeze High School. You've got standards, which is the Common Core. You've got curriculum and methods, which is usually what shows up on the internet and Facebook, which has nothing to do with the Common Core, except as an object of ridicule and for the House. One lady stood up, and I wish I remembered her name, because I call her out, because she talked about something as if it happened to her, and I had already seen it on Facebook. It did not happen to her. And then you have the highly complicated problem of how to measure whether your curriculum and methods and materials have taught the standards, and that's where the testing comes in. These are three separate areas, and they're distinct. And the federal government, does not control your education system. Your county school board controls your education system with standards. I'm one of the few people that actually read the Common Core, except for the last third of math, and I couldn't understand what they were talking about. I'd be more than happy if my students graduated from GW High School knowing everything in the Common Core. I'd just be delighted. They're probably not if the legislature does quit messing with the curriculum and the standards and costing us all millions of dollars by ripping things up. I just talked to a 16-year-old about a week ago who was complaining, and this was an advanced student. She's an advanced placement, and she has to pay extra because the legislature started monkeying with essentially the math curriculum and its sequencing. So she wound up not being able to get the advanced placement that she had already had and taking stuff she already had 3 years earlier. That's criminal. That's stupid. That's wasteful. We can't afford that kind of stuff. Now, let's touch on where the federal government comes into this. I'm not entirely sure whether any federal funding is happening. It may be. But the federal government has nothing to do with Common Core. It's the National Governors Association. The National Governors Association then got their respective state departments of education in it and became a consensus built over a long period of time. That's where Common Core came from. Now, Rush Limbaugh will not tell you that. Fox News will not tell you that. And the Cook brothers funding, I don't understand why they're against it, but it's clear where this comes from. It's stirring people up who do not know the history. And I'm incensed because this is screwing up our educational system at a point where we needed to get better. Now, is Common Core the right way to do it? I don't know. You know, and you can talk all day about which outcome is what I call it, not curriculum and materials, but which outcome has to be reached at which level. There's a lot of that. Third graders have to do this. I don't know. I think there's a lot of slack that should be given in there. Common Core is a heck of a start, and it has to do with economic development. And if you think it doesn't, talk to me for about the next 2 hours, because I'm passionate about this. We are not ahead. We are behind. And we've been behind most of my life. And that's not to say that the very fine teachers and the very fine superintendents, the very fine people at the Department of Ed, and indeed on at the higher education, haven't been doing their best. There's some very good people. But we are not ahead, and we need to have at least some indicia that we are equal to the country. So I don't think we're even equal. Common Core is a good start.
So passionate.
Sorry. I mean, I don't need a job.
Listen, I'll be very brief. I've been in the trenches on this. You know, I'll first say it's not a legislator's decision, and I'll say it this way: we need to get the principals, the teachers, the parents, and the students together when we make decisions. And I don't know if you all knew, but I got appointed and asked to be on the Commission on Assessment this year. I was the only delegate to be on that committee. And the one thing that I focused on learning from the students and parents in my district was that our students are over-tested, and they're not, the testing that they're provided doesn't give them any incentive. So what I did this year is I introduced a piece of legislation, because federally you are required to test at certain grade levels. But we in West Virginia are actually over-testing. So I introduced a piece of legislation to end 9th and 10th grade testing and only test once at the high school level. And that saves the state $2 million. And then the second thing I did was focus on what is that test, parent, teacher, student, principals, that we can enact that will make or mandate that we take. We'll provide that incentive for your student to say, hey, I actually want to take this test. What is it? ACT. And so there was a piece of legislation that my companion that was on the commission in the Senate, Mr. Walters, introduced with a couple other senators to get the ACT back to school. And that's the start. So that's what I was involved in this session.
I'll go last.
I come from a family of teachers. My mother's a school teacher. I basically think you should defer to educators and the people really are supposed to be teaching our kids. There are two things. I am for decentralization, but Common Core was, there wasn't a requirement about the federal government to get into it anyway. But the Tea Party people kept occasionally calling me. I talked to everybody, and one of their concerns, which was that they thought that the curriculum was going to be that some student could be identified and then be marketed by some private sector entity. And I certainly am for protecting everybody's privacy. I don't know that any of that was true, but that was one of their concerns. A lot of times people talk right past each other. Some person has an objection about this, and the person doesn't listen to what that person's objection, then that's a problem. So I don't think any of that probably was true, but I'm just saying this was a concern to some of the people the Tea Party folks down in Wood County. They called me and said, "You read this thing?" And I said, "Look, I've looked through. It's extremely complicated. Probably there are only 2 or 3 people who understand what it means. But philosophically, I don't think we should have anything that would actually disclose as individual students, for mark for somebody to be able to target that person's marketing. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I'm just saying these were concerns that some of the folks had. And if they were true, that would be a legitimate concern. That has nothing to do with Common Core, in my opinion. And I am for decentralization. I don't believe in having it, but we're not France, we're the United States, we have federalism, and each state does it its own way. Then in our state, we have further decentralization among the counties, and I prefer to keep it that way. But we certainly need to have some way to be able to compare Johnny and Joni and Alan and all this in different parts of the country to see that, when they apply for college or apply for a job, that there's some type of objective criteria that you can compare A and B, so you have apples and apples and not apples and oranges. But finally, I would say, reminds me, one of my favorite employees of the Gazette and then the Mail was L.T. Anderson, who's now deceased, but he used to talk about educational fads. And I think we spend way too much money, the taxpayers, on educational fads. We have something that has certain types of jargon, and we switch to something else. And I wonder how much it ever really advances education. And it's the kids that we should be focused on.
No pressure.
So I think that the Common Core standards are good standards. I think that Jack touched on this, that the NGA in 2009 developed this. They were trying to develop a metric that allowed them to compare U.S. students to the mean. And that's a very good idea and a good goal. And I think that it was paid for by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to funded this study, and this is what it came up with the Common Core. The next gen standards West Virginia has currently in place are derived from the Common Core. So I think those are fine standards. I think that education is the key, the silver bullet to what ails in the state. And we hear that a lot. We hear about how much we spend per student, but education. My mom's a teacher, so I know the value and how important education is changing the trajectory of people's lives. And we just can't lose sight of those things. You look at kids who graduate from high school in West Virginia. We have to do a better job for these kids. 32% of them don't attend school out there or don't go back to college. 23% of them don't have to take a remediation class. I mean, these are things that we just need to do a better job of education all around.
Well, thank you all very much.
Bring up something that's not hard to get.
You may want to wait until we turn off the